Hi guys, welcome to Flick Finesse, and in this video, we've gathered the top 10 most gripping mystery thriller movies that you can stream in 2025 on Netflix, Amazon Prime, and a few other platforms. Because let's be honest, these days it's not easy to surprise a seasoned viewer. Most thrillers follow the same patterns: predictable twists, loud jump moments, and characters who act like they've never seen a suspicious shadow before. The movies in this list are not the loud, fast, overly dramatic kind. They are slow-burning, atmospheric, and deeply immersive. Stories that don't just trigger your instincts, they grip your emotions, play with your doubts, and leave you thinking long after the credits roll. So let's dive into the darkness. Let's begin. Number 10. Drop. Violet isn't just a single mother trying to rebuild her life. She's a survivor stitched together with quiet strength and unresolved bruises. After years of keeping the world at arm's length, she forces herself back into the dating game, stepping into a high-rise restaurant that feels more like a glass box suspended above her fears. Her date, Henry, seems warm, decent, maybe even a step toward normalcy. But normalcy shatters the moment her phone lights up with a drop, a tiny digital whisper from a stranger hiding somewhere in the room. What begins as a harmless-looking message quickly mutates into a nightmare. Each new drop sharpens the tension, each command digs deeper into her nerves, and each threat claws at the fragile life she's been trying to protect. The restaurant transforms from a romantic escape into a pressure cooker of paranoia. Every smiling waiter, every couple at a corner table, every passerby becomes a shadowed suspect. Violet is spun into a terrifying game, orchestrated by someone who knows her past, her wounds, her child, someone who enjoys pulling the strings. The instructions get darker, the stakes get crueler, and the walls feel like they're closing in with every buzz of her phone. What makes Drop truly unnerving isn't the tech, it's the way it weaponizes vulnerability. It's a story about a woman forced to relive the violence she escaped, pushed toward choices no mother should ever face, dancing on the edge of panic while trying desperately not to break in front of a stranger. Drop isn't just a date gone wrong. It's a pressure cooker thriller about trauma, manipulation, and the haunting truth that sometimes the scariest monster is the one who already knows where your pain lives. Number 9. Honey Don't. Honey O'Donoghue, a sharp-tongued private investigator with a taste for chaos, is a walking contradiction. Roaming the sun-bleached, dusty backroads of New Mexico, she lives on caffeine, bad decisions, and the thrill of chasing trouble she should have avoided in the first place. Most days, Honey drifts through life like she's untouchable, all swagger, smirks, and a lighter flicking between her fingers. But her reckless orbit gets snapped in half when a strange, desperate young woman crashes into her life, begging for help. One small plea becomes a wildfire, dragging Honey into a twisted maze of crooked creatures, violent thugs, and secrets rotting beneath the desert heat. Suddenly, the case stops being just another gig. It becomes a collision course with a darkness she can't charm her way out of. As Honey digs deeper, she crosses paths with M.G. Falcone, a hard-as-steel cop whose own demons hit just as hard as the bullets flying around them. Together, they wade through a world of cult-like corruption, gunsmoke nights, and a trail of lies that refuses to stay buried. Honey Don't is a scorched, sun-drenched neo-noir, a wild, chaotic ride about messy people trying to outgun the mistakes that haunt them. It's stylish, twisted, and brutally honest, asking one burning question: how far can you run from your own ruin before it finally catches up? Number 8. Dendam Malam Kelam. Jeffrey, a respected lecturer with a polished smile and a rotten conscience, is crumbling from the inside. Trapped in a marriage that feels like a cage, entangled in a forbidden affair with his own student, he's living a double life stitched together with lies, desire, and guilt. His days are spent performing honesty. His nights are soaked in secrets he pretends he can control. But everything shatters the moment his wife, Sophia, turns up dead. A murder wrapped in quiet brutality. And just when the dust should settle, the impossible happens. Her body vanishes from the morgue, slipping away like a bad dream that refuses to end. That single disappearance tears open a hole in Jeffrey's carefully managed world. What follows is a suffocating descent into paranoia. A relentless detective, sharp, patient, quietly dangerous, begins circling Jeffrey like a wolf scenting blood. Every question feels like a trap. Every silence feels like a confession. And Jeffrey starts to realize that the dead don't always stay dead. And guilt has a way of haunting you louder than any ghost. As secrets unravel, so do the people hiding behind them. Sarah, the young woman Jeffrey swore was his escape, becomes a ticking emotional bomb, pulling him deeper into a psychological swamp where every truth cuts like a blade. The town itself feels stained, quiet streets hiding violence, polite faces masking betrayal, and every shadow whispering that someone knows more than they should. Dendam Malam Kelam isn't just a crime thriller. It's a chilling, claustrophobic spiral into the darkness people build inside themselves. A story about love twisted into obsession, guilt festering into madness, and revenge that doesn't wait for justice. Number 7. Mr. Holmes. Sherlock Holmes, once the sharpest mind in England, is now a ghost of the legend he used to be. Living out his final years on a quiet, salt-bitten farm by the sea, his days blur together in a fog of fading memories, buzzing beehives, and a mind that no longer obeys him like it once did. But the calm, fragile routine shatters when a long-forgotten case claws its way back into his consciousness. A case that didn't end with triumph, but with regret. A case so heavy it cracked the myth of Sherlock Holmes himself. And suddenly, this frail old detective is dragged into a harsh, intimate confrontation. Not with criminals, but with the truth he ran from. As Holmes tries to piece together fragments of a mystery buried inside his own failing mind, he is forced to face the one puzzle he never learned to solve. His own loneliness, his own guilt, his own humanity. Ian McKellen's performance cuts deep. He plays Holmes not as the unstoppable genius from the stories, but as a man crumbling under the weight of memory and time. No wild chases, no grand reveals, just a brilliant mind decaying and still trying to make sense of one final riddle before the lights inside him go dark. A mystery where the crime matters less than the man trying to remember why it broke him in the first place. Number 6. Transsiberian. Roy and Jessie, an ordinary American couple trying to patch up their marriage, step onto the Transsiberian Railway, hoping for adventure and a fresh start. But this isn't a cozy vacation. It's a steel serpent cutting through a world of frozen emptiness, where the cold isn't the only thing that bites. Things shift the moment they meet Carlos and Abby, two backpackers with easy charm and shadows they never talk about. Jessie, already restless in her own skin, gets pulled into their orbit, one small decision at a time. And that's where the real trouble begins. A carved doll stuffed with secrets, a missing traveler, a relentless Russian investigator who sees through people the way others see through glass. Suddenly, Jessie finds herself trapped in a tightening maze, lies growing heavier, dangers closing in, and the train refusing to stop for anyone's panic. Transsiberian is a taut, snow-drenched thriller about how fast trust can crack, how far fear can push you, and how a single wrong move can turn a simple train ride into a spiraling fight for survival. Cold rails, colder truths, and a journey that only gets darker the farther it goes. Number 5. Eddington. Joe Cross, the weary sheriff of a dust-choked desert town called Eddington, is hanging on by a thread. Days glued together in a blur of cheap coffee, sleepless nights, and the crushing silence that comes after too many mistakes. He's a man drifting on fumes, patrolling a place that feels half dead and half feral. But that sleepy, sand-bitten routine shatters the moment a masked stranger strolls into town and sets off a chain of chaos. Suddenly, the fragile calm splits open. Old paranoia resurfaces, Neighbors start choosing sides, and conspiracy-hungry outsiders swarm like vultures. Joe, who barely trusts himself anymore, is pushed into the center of a spiraling, fever-dream conflict. With every step, he's forced to face buried guilt, digital age hysteria, and a mayor whose smile hides something rotten. And when his town begins dissolving into fear and rage, Joe realizes he's no longer just keeping order. He's trying to stop an entire community from eating itself alive. Eddington isn't a clean-cut thriller. It's a dusty, strange, off-balance descent into a town losing its grip on reality. It's about cracked souls, fractured loyalties, and the invisible storms people carry inside them. A story where truth is blurry, danger creeps in slow, and survival isn't about bullets. It's about holding on to whatever humanity you have left in the middle of madness. Number 4. Glass Onion, a Knives-Out mystery. Miles Braun, a larger-than-life tech visionary with a worshipping fan club disguised as friends, is chaos wrapped in charisma. Living on a sun-drenched private island in Greece, equal parts paradise and pressure cooker, his days revolve around flexing power, staging elaborate games, and pretending he's the smartest man in every room. But his glittering, ego-fueled getaway takes a sharp, shattering turn the moment Benoit Blanc arrives. A world-class detective dropped into a world built entirely on lies, Blanc becomes the one sober mind in a circle dizzy from fame, fortune, and fear. The party, an extravagant carousel of cocktails, secrets, and curated poses, comes screeching to a halt when a staged murder mystery edges dangerously close to something real. A crack in the group, a misstep, a secret that won't stay buried. Suddenly, the island's perfect sheen feels brittle, like glass ready to splinter at the slightest touch. And layer by layer, the truth bleeds out. Each guest, an influencer, a politician, a scientist, a washed-up star, carries a history tied to Miles, each one hiding a debt, a grudge, or a lie. Old alliances rot, ambition festers. The air thickens with paranoia as Blanc digs deeper, pulling apart the facades with quiet precision. Glass Onion unfolds as a slick, sharp mystery about glittering egos, toxic loyalty, and the rot beneath wealth's polished surface. It's gorgeous, funny, and vicious, asking whether brilliance is real or just another illusion bought with money. In the end, it's not just about solving a crime. It's about stripping these people down to who they really are, and watching what remains when the glass finally shatters. Number 3. Arlington Road. Michael Faraday, a rattled college professor still carrying the scars of a past tragedy, drifts through his days with a restless, trembling edge, half grieving, half suspicious, and never fully at ease. Everything tilts off its axis when new neighbors move in across the street. Oliver Lang and his meticulously crafted family portrait. Their handshake charm, their polished smiles, their immaculate home, none of it sits right. It all feels staged, curated, unnervingly precise, like a mask designed to make you stop questioning. But Michael can't stop. Not when the little details start to splinter. Architectural sketches tucked away, casual lies sewn into everyday conversations, locked rooms that shouldn't be locked. His curiosity mutates into a relentless pursuit, dragging him into the underbelly of a world where ordinary is just camouflage and conspiracy seeps through neatly trimmed hedges. As the facade of the neighborhood begins to rot, the film tightens around him like a slowly closing fist. Every whisper, every shadow, every polite nod across the fence becomes a threat. This isn't a thriller built on jump scares. It's a steady, suffocating climb into a place where trust is a trap and logic dissolves under fear. Jeff Bridges delivers a raw, unraveling intensity, while Tim Robbins embodies a chilling, soft-spoken menace. The kind of villain who never raises his voice because he never needs to. And when the ending hits, it hits like a cold blade. Merciless, calculated, unforgettable. No comfort, no redemption. Just the horrifying clarity of how easily systems can swallow individuals whole. Arlington Road is a ruthless, haunting thriller about the quiet violence of belief, the fragility of truth, and the danger of looking too closely at the world you think you understand. Number 2. Source code. Coulter Stevens wakes up on a Chicago-bound train that isn't his, in a body that isn't his, with 8 minutes ticking down like a fuse. The world around him feels eerily normal. Coffee steam drifting, commuters chatting, metal clattering under the tracks. Yet something is undeniably off, like reality has been stitched together wrong. And then the train explodes. Everything goes white, and Coulter snaps back into a claustrophobic metal pod, half-conscious, half-panicked, and wholly unaware of how he ended up inside this looping nightmare. Piece by piece, the brutal truth slams into him. He's trapped in a government experiment called source code, forced to dive repeatedly into the last 8 minutes of another man's life. His mission? Identify the bomber before a second, far deadlier attack hits the city. But with every reset, the line between simulation and reality blurs. Faces become familiar, connections deepen, and Coulter finds himself fighting not just to solve a crime, but to claw back a sense of self that the world has quietly erased. Source Code is a tightly wound techno-thriller, humming with dread and momentum. It's about fractured identity, moral gray zones, and the desperate human instinct to break free from whatever cage you're trapped in, digital or otherwise. It's sharp, breathless, and emotionally charged, asking a harrowing question beneath all the sci-fi machinery. If you only had 8 minutes left, again and again, what would you fight for? Number 1. Zodiac. San Francisco in the late 60s is humming with life, bright, restless, almost careless in its optimism. But beneath that bustling glow lies a quiet rot that no one notices until the letters start arriving. Coded, taunting, laced with a cold delight in violence, and suddenly the city's illusion of safety cracks wide open. At the Chronicle, Robert Graysmith is barely more than the guy in the corner, an unassuming cartoonist whose biggest daily crisis used to be a missed deadline. But when the Zodiac's cryptic messages land on his desk, something inside him stirs. Curiosity at first, the kind that feels harmless. Then a pull, then an obsession. Soon he's lingering in police halls long after the detectives have given up for the night, chasing clues that keep slipping just out of reach. While seasoned investigators grind themselves down on false leads and dead ends, Graysmith finds himself sucked deeper into the killer's shadow. Each new detail feels like a breath of cold air on the back of his neck. Every suspect looks almost right until the truth dissolves again, mocking him. Fincher paints this descent with a razor's edge calm. Smoky newsrooms, rain-slicked sidewalks, dim basements humming with fear. Every frame tightens around the characters like a slow, inevitable clamp. There are no answers waiting at the end of the trail, only the toll of the chase. Marriages cracking, careers unraveling, lives shrinking down to a single gnawing question no one can solve. It's tense, suffocating, and disturbingly intimate, showing how one faceless killer can haunt a city long after the murders stop, simply by refusing to be caught. Zodiac just landed on Netflix, added on November 17th. If you haven't seen it yet, now is absolutely the perfect time to dive into that incredibly gripping and intense story. Trust me, you'll be hooked. And that wraps up our list of the best mystery thrillers streaming in 2025. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop your own recommendations in the comments. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.